Good morning, Christy and Mike.
Good morning,
Good
Marty.
morning, Marty.
How you doing?
Good.
Good. Hey, y'all saw that posting from Tiziano?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I thought, I'm interested because, he's pretty vehement about, being black and white and not tiptoeing around eggshells and pointing out the fact that, to the degree that you're stuck in a maybe, you're pretty much PTS. And I thought it was interesting, I wanted to get your views because you two both had situations where you had to make a black and white decision, essentially. I mean, you could have Q'd and A'd and you could have, continued to have a connection that was controlled through Miscavige and company, but you decided not to maintain that, play that game. And so I wanted to get sort of your perspective on the situation.
Right.
I mean, Christy, your cycle, I mean, they didn't really fully talk about the whole thing in the New York Times.
Right.
I mean, we used a small segment of your video, but
Yeah.
I mean, you had a similar situation. Your dad, essentially, who was on OT7, was the one that initially got you to start looking at things, no?
Yeah. My dad was going there every 6 months for 6-month checks and was, hating it. And basically said, everything in my life is great except I hate going to Flag. And told me all kinds of reasons why and all the things that were happening that made him feel that way. And that contributed to me wanting to find out what was going on.
Right. And that included, I guess, Reggie?
Yeah, like massively. I mean, one of his 6-month checks had an out security situation where he basically had a diabetic coma in an airport on the way to Flag, dropped his materials in a moment of a diabetic coma where you basically kind of black out. And then, so this was considered out security and he had to do treason and then was regged for, they wanted him to pay $7,000 for basics and he finally talked him down to $2,500, but that was just one example.
So they're literally squeezing blood money out of them to get out of an ethics situation.
Right.
Now here's the thing too, I mean, as you subsequently learned, that the ethics situation is really manufactured because the quote-unquote out security,
It's a joke.
it's a joke because you can get anywhere on the internet and have been able to for more than a decade.
Right.
Okay. So then what happened? So you went out and did your own investigation?
Yeah, so finally, I mean, we looked, my ex-husband Chris and I, we looked and we, spoke to you and heard all kinds of stories about what was going on and compared it to our own experiences with Miscavige and just in the Sea Org and made our decision that we didn't want to have anything to do with the church. So we started telling people, some of our friends, and enough people, I guess, that eventually OSA found out. Tommy Davis came down and had a whole confrontation with Chris, and shortly thereafter they declared Chris, went to my parents' house, showed my parents the declare, and said, Christy needs to come here and you guys need to handle her, otherwise she's going to get declared.
Right.
So I started talking to my parents about what I knew and telling them what I knew, and they weren't interested. And my dad said things like, don't lay your body down in front of the tanks, just watch and see what happens. You don't have to sacrifice. And my mom said, what should we do? Go out and talk to all these ex-Sea Org members? And I said, yeah, we need to find out.
Right.
And basically it was a point of code of honor. It's like, okay, my immediate life is more important than this. I'm not gonna say yes sir to these people and just remain connected to them just because of that.
Right.
It's like,
But let's make something clear here though. You never disconnected from them.
no.
In fact, to this day, I've seen it right up to present time, you've continued to attempt to communicate.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
But the point is it's this, I guess what we're getting at is this, what has become so common, everything's reversed. This is reverse disconnection.
Exactly.
Right.
In other words-
It's enforced connection in order to control.
Exactly.
Right.
So your choice was, I can play the game.
I said that to my mom. I said, I'm not disconnecting from you. I said, I am not. If you want to disconnect from me because I'm standing up for what I believe in, that's your choice, but I'm not disconnecting from anybody.
Right.
She said, you're choosing them over us. And I said, no, I'm not. You're choosing them over me.
Right.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
Interesting. And you had a similar thing in that I was actually witnessed it.
Right.
And so did Jason Begay, but when they sent the shock troops out to Denver,
Right.
and Monique Yingling and
Yeah, the whole message was, if you want to maintain a line to your family, like all of my family are Scientologists, brother, sister, nephews, nieces, they're in the SEOG, my mother, they're all OT8s. I mean, everybody in my family is a Scientologist. And she said, well, don't you want to maintain a communication line to your family? Wouldn't you like to be able to talk to your family and your kids? And I said, Monique, of course I would. I mean, it was kind of absurd, Marty. This is Monique Yingling, a lawyer, now talking to me about church policy of disconnection and maintaining a
with another lawyer.
With
both,
another lawyer.
Both of them are non-Scientologists using the disconnect card to try to control you.
Right.
Yeah.
But put that aside. The message was, if you're good, meaning you don't go to the media, you don't talk about Miscavige, you sit down and be a quiet, good boy, then it'll be fine. You'll be able to communicate with your family.
Right.
And don't you want to communicate to your family? I said, of course I do, but I'm not letting them be used as pawns and coins to try and control me.
Right.
I don't consider that it's any different to have a family member being used to control you than it is to pay you off.
Right.
Or it's like, I'm not willing to put those people in the position where they are actually a control mechanism to try and control me to do what the church wants, or what Miscavige wants me to do.
Right. So the real alternative is do you want to talk to your family member as an agent,
Exactly.
doing the bidding of David Miscavige and the Church of the Church of Miscavige?
That's because that's what it comes down to, Marty.
Right.
They become an agent of what I consider a completely squirrel, off-policy, suppressive activity.
Right. And again, incidentally, they've tried to twist things around as they always do, but you never disconnected from them.
No.
In fact, right afterwards, what happened?
Well, right after that, then I start getting the letters of, stop this, I can't believe that you're doing this, you're going to be a black cinder, you're going to be and even those letters were completely controlled and dictated by the church.
Not the church. I mean, I saw those letters. Those came right out of the dictaphone of David Miscavige.
I know.
Yeah.
So I wasn't willing to play that game. And I got to tell you, Marty, I am so happy that I didn't.
Right.
If I had had my life continued to be controlled and suppressed and everything that I did being monitored and directed through my family, it wouldn't be any different than being in the Sea Org and being in the hole.
Right.
I agree 100%.
Absolutely. Now, the proof of the pudding is about the reversal of this whole mechanism. Really, is your marriage.
Yeah.
Do you mind if we?
No.
I mean, in
that,
a nutshell,
it's
outline what's going on.
Here is the insanity of that. When I left, when I blew in London, the first thing that I did when I got to Virginia, actually, I went to Ronnie and Biddy, and I was staying with them, and Biddy was a very good friend of Kathy, and she said, look, you gotta communicate to Kathy, you gotta get Kathy to come out here. And I sent a letter, and I said, I want to speak to Kathy, and I want her to come out here so I can talk to her.
Right.
And figure out, see where she wants to go. And the answer that I got to that was a letter that said, literally, fuck you, the divorce papers are en route.
Right.
And I wasn't really surprised by that.
Well, that's the policy. The policy is, and it's been for what, decades. The guy blows, they go to Jeannie Gavigan or one of these people in Moxon's office, they draft the papers up, they send them to you. It's a known procedure.
Right.
They send you the papers, you're not supposed to even answer because the whole point is you default and the thing's done in 6 months.
Right.
Policy.
Right.
Church policy.
Right. So I got those papers and I sent them back, and presumed that they were going to just be filed, and as a matter of course of the court procedure, the divorce would be done.
Right.
Well, now I've come to find, actually, after that incident in Clearwater,
Where they
where
ambushed you?
all those guys showed up in the parking lot of the doctors, they tried to justify that whole thing, saying that this was just a family matter.
Right.
And Kathy's there announcing, that's my husband. I'm allowed to be here. I'm allowed. And when the doctor's trying to throw him out of the office, the 7 screaming lunatics.
Right.
And she's saying, I'm allowed to be here. This is my husband. And I
Right.
went, wait a minute. I'm not your husband. You didn't even want to talk to me. You don't want to have anything to do with me.
Okay, so much you're not her husband that she executed an affidavit under the pains and penalties of perjury in response to the original Truth Rundown series that said, I am divorced from Mike Rinder and I am remarried?
No, she says, and my name is Kathy Bernardini. So she says it's a maiden name. I'm not even sure if it is, but my name is Kathy Bernardini. I was married to Mike Rinder, but we are now divorced.
Right. And so this is months after that.
So months after that, now suddenly
yeah.
she's now my. And then the next thing that happens is when I call up the court to find out, well, what happened? How come this? Oh, well, it was basically stopped. I then wrote a letter and said, look, this is crazy. If the policy of the church is that someone in international management should not be connected to the biggest or the second biggest SP on planet Earth, then I put all together all the papers. Here's
Right.
all the papers for you to sign, and they can just be filed and the thing will be done.
Right.
It's just a matter of 4 signatures and that's it. I'll take care of everything.
And you had to retain counsel. No?
Well,
I'm jumping in.
yeah.
Okay.
That's irrelevant
Okay.
because what happened was I sent that letter. The next thing that happens is I then get a letter from this law firm in Los Angeles called Kolodny and Anto. And you probably remember
Who
them.
we
because-
hired to handle Kirsty's
Kirsty's
divorce
divorce.
from Parker Stevenson.
And
The
then,
second biggest, most expensive divorce lawyer in Los
yeah,
Angeles.
they're the divorce lawyers for every big celebrity, big money deal.
Right. So they bring them in.
They bring them in to handle this divorce case with a huge list of demands for all of my financial information, everything that I've ever spent for the last 5 years, every credit card statement for 5 years, bank accounts, who's paying me, who's paying for my tickets to go. It's a fishing expedition.
Right.
And the church has now hired the biggest law firm, the most expensive
Family law. Yeah.
family law,
Divorce.
celebrity divorce lawyers to represent Kathy, who's a SEOG member, in her divorce against me.
Right.
All of this is everything about this whole subject is just attempts to manipulate, control, information gathering. You know, if I had agreed to maintain communication lines with my family, it would have been a control line. It would have also been an intelligence line.
Of course.
That's
Everybody can spy, everybody must spy is their motto. But, you know, this is the epitome, I believe, of reverse enforced connection in order to control, right? Is that what you called it?
Yep.
that's
I mean,
exactly
that's
what I
it
called
is,
it.
yeah. So I guess the message is at the end of the day, I mean, ultimately you got to make a decision whether you're going to play their game and be under their control.
Exactly.
And you have to disconnect from anybody, but man, you don't have to play their game and comply to their terms of connection.
Right.
Correct.
All right. Did you guys have fun down here?
Great.
Absolutely.